Hey everyone, so today we're diving into something that's becoming more and more critical, digital anonymity. We're going to explore why the simple act of speaking your mind, without attaching your real name to every single thought, is pretty much becoming the last line of defense for free speech in our world.
Right off the bat, let's tackle the biggest myth. We're always told that anonymity is just for trolls, right? For criminals. But this quote, it just flips that whole idea on its head. It argues that for so many people, anonymity isn't about hiding bad intentions. No, it's a shield. It's protection for whistleblowers, for activists, for ordinary people who just want to speak truth to power without facing real-world danger. And that idea, that's what we're really unpacking today. So, what kind of world are we actually living in online? Well, there's a term for it, the panopticon effect. And it's pretty simple when you break it down. Just picture this. You've got governments pushing for ever more transparency. You've got these mega corporations logging every single click you make. And on top of that, you have social media platforms that are literally designed to know who you are at all times. The end result is this powerful, constant feeling that you're being watched. And that has a huge chilling effect on what people feel safe enough to say or even think online. And let's be clear, this panopticon effect, it's not some accident. It's really the outcome of what you could call a two-front war on our privacy. On one side, you have governments, and on the other, the very platforms we use every single day. So let's break down how each of these fronts really works. Okay, front number one, governments. Now, the word transparency sounds good, doesn't it? Of course, we want online spaces to be safe. But that ideal, that word, is being weaponized. These demands for real name verification, they're sold to us as a way to fight misinformation. But what they can actually create is a perfect tool for censorship. Basically, a centralized list of every single person who disagrees with the official story. And look, this isn't some far-off theory. It is happening right now, all over the world. Just look at the UK, where the Online Safety Act is opening the door to real name verification. Or Turkey, where a so-called disinformation law was actually used to find and arrest citizens who dared to criticize the government anonymously. And in Iran, during the protests, the state used digital metadata, the digital breadcrumbs we all leave behind, to literally hunt down protesters who were just sharing videos online. The risk here is very real, and it's happening today. So that brings us to the second front in this war, the corporate giants. All the big social media platforms of what we call Web 2.0, you know what I'm talking about, Meta, X, TikTok, they all act as these massive centralized bottlenecks. They hold all our data, and because they're centralized companies, they have no choice but to comply with government requests for that data. Think about it. Their privacy policy is only as strong as the most intrusive law in any country where they do business. And that's the real kicker, isn't it? The huge, massive gap between the marketing and the reality. They promise us all these wonderful things: privacy, real connection, a space for free expression. But what do we actually get? Well, we get data exploitation, where we are the product. We get put into these algorithmic bubbles that only show us what the platform wants us to see. And ultimately, we get compliance with the very same censors that people are trying to escape. Now, I know that sounds pretty grim. But this is the point in the story where we pivot. We shift towards a solution. And it's a pretty fundamental one. It's a whole new way of structuring the internet, sometimes called the Web4 paradigm, and it offers a way out of this surveillance trap by building on these new decentralized ideas. Let's use a metaphor here, because I think it makes it super clear. In the current Web 2.0 world, you are basically a tenant. You're living in a giant, fancy skyscraper owned by a huge corporation. Sure, you can decorate your own little apartment, but the landlord, they own the building, they write all the rules, they hold all the keys, and they can kick you out whenever they feel like it. You don't actually own a thing. Web4 completely flips that entire model on its head. In this new world, you're not the tenant anymore. You are the architect. You own your data. You control your identity. You set the rules for your own digital home. All that power shifts from the big platform right back to you, the individual. So how is that even possible? Well, the key piece of technology is something called a UID. It stands for Universal Integrated Identity Decoupled. The easiest way to think about it is like a digital shield. What it does is it separates your real-world verified identity from everything you do online. This is so cool because it lets you prove you're a real human, not a bot, without ever having to reveal which human you are. And here's how simple it actually is in practice. First, you just verify your identity one time, and it's totally private. Then, step 2, you can create and use all these different pseudonyms or aliases when you interact with online communities. So you could be user 123 on a political forum and creative soul on an art site, and there is absolutely no link between the two. And then step 3, you can just interact freely, because without one single identity to follow around, that kind of creepy cross-platform tracking just becomes impossible. And this new architecture gives us some incredible benefits. User sovereignty means your data is actually truly yours. Anonymous posting can strip away all the metadata, so there's literally no digital paper trail leading back to you. Decentralized identifiers mean that you and only you control the keys to your own identity. And maybe most importantly, you can have zero algorithm environments. I mean, imagine that. No more shadow banning, no more content being filtered just to drive profit. You see what the community posts, not what an algorithm wants you to see. So, when you put it all together, what does it all mean? Well, the big takeaway here is that this isn't just about some cool new tech. This is about rebuilding the digital town square. It's about creating public spaces online that are genuinely free, truly private, and actually owned by the people who use them. Because at the end of the day, this is who anonymity is for. It's for the whistleblower who's exposing corruption. It's for the activist who's trying to organize for change under a repressive regime. And honestly, it's for any citizen anywhere in the world who wants to criticize people in power without being terrified of that knock on the door at midnight. It goes right back to the beginning. It is a shield for the vulnerable. And that leaves all of us with one last really crucial question. The tools to build a more private, a more free, a more sovereign internet, they're not science fiction anymore. They're emerging right now. The choice we have to make is no longer just about which app we're going to use. It's about the fundamental architecture of our digital lives. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is, what kind of digital world do we actually want to build?